Welcome to our magic lamp. I'm so excited that you could be here with me and have some fun today with my crafty cat Cosette and I. Cosette loves to read books and then to do a fun activity or make something together. Would you like to see which book she's picked out for us to read together today? Me too. It looks like Cosette wants to read Corduroy. Are you ready to read with me? My magic carpet will take us to a special place where we can sit and read our story. All you have to do is rub your hands together and say, "I wish to go on an enchanted journey," and we'll be on our way. Are you ready? I wish to go on an enchanted journey. Well, this is an interesting place, isn't it? It's kind of dark, kind of empty here. Wonder where everybody is. Maybe it has something to do with today's story. Today's story I have to share with you is Corduroy. Let's go ahead and read it together. Corduroy is a bear who once lived in the toy department of a big store. Day after day, he waited with all the other animals and dolls for somebody to come along and take him home. The store was always filled with shoppers buying all sorts of things, but no one ever seemed to want a small bear in green overalls. Then one morning, a little girl stopped and looked straight into Corduroy's bright eyes. "Oh, Mommy," she said, "look, there's the very bear I've always wanted." "Not today, dear," her mother sighed. "I've spent too much money already. Besides, he doesn't look new. He's lost the button to one of his shoulder straps." Corduroy watched them sadly as they walked away. "I didn't know I'd lost a button," he said to himself. "Tonight I'll go and see if I can find it." Late that evening, when all the shoppers had gone and the doors were shut and locked, Corduroy climbed carefully down from his shelf and began searching everywhere on the floor for his lost button. Suddenly, he felt the floor moving under him. Quite by accident, he had stepped onto an escalator and up he went. Could this be a mountain, he wondered? I think I've always wanted to climb a mountain. He stepped off the escalator as it reached the next floor, and there, before his eyes, was a most amazing sight. Tables and chairs and lamps and sofas and rows of beds. "This must be a palace," Corduroy gasped. "I guess I've always wanted to live in a palace." He wandered around admiring the furniture. "This must be a bed," he said. "I've always wanted to sleep in a bed." And up he crawled onto a large, thick mattress. All at once, he saw something small and round. "Why, here's my button!" he cried, and he tried to pick it up, but like all the other buttons on the mattress, it was tied down tight. Poor Corduroy hasn't found his button yet. He yanked and he pulled with both paws until pop! Off came the button, and off the mattress Corduroy toppled. Bang! Into a tall floor lamp. Over it fell with a crash. Uh-oh. It's making some noise. Corduroy didn't know it, but there was someone else awake in the store. The night watchman was going on his rounds on the floor above. When he heard the crash, he came dashing down the escalator. "Now who in the world did that?" he exclaimed. "Somebody must be hiding around here." Uh-oh. He flashed his light under and over sofas and beds until he came to the biggest bed of all, and there he saw 2 fuzzy brown ears sticking up from under the covers. "Hello," he said. "How did you get upstairs?" The watchman tucked Corduroy under his arm and carried him down the escalator and set him on the shelf in the toy department with all the other animals and dolls. Aw, Corduroy looks pretty tuckered out, doesn't he? Corduroy was just waking up when the first customers came into the store in the morning. And there, looking at him with a wide, warm smile, was the same little girl he'd seen only the day before. "I'm Lisa," she said, "and you're going to be my very own bear. Last night I counted what I'd saved in my piggy bank, and my mother said I could bring you home." Oh, yay, Corduroy's gonna have a new home. Shall I put him in a box for you? The saleslady asked. Oh, no, thank you, Lisa answered, and she carried Corduroy home in her arms. She ran all the way up 4 flights of stairs into her family's apartment and straight into her own room. Corduroy blinked. There was a chair and a chest of drawers, and alongside a girl-sized bed stood a little bed, just the right size for him. The room was small, nothing like the enormous palace in the department store. This must be home, he said. I know I've always wanted a home. Lisa sat down with Corduroy on her lap and began to sew a button on his overalls. I like you the way you are, she said, but you'll be more comfortable with your shoulder strap fastened. You must be a friend, said Corduroy. I've always wanted a friend. Me too, said Lisa, and gave him a big hug. Corduroy wasn't picked off the shelf because he had a missing button, but along came a thoughtful little girl who knew just what to do. And you know what? He turned out even better than before, because a little girl showed him kindness and love. Did you know that I made my friend Cosette? Yep, I did. She's a stuffed cat that I designed and sewed together, and when we're in my genie lamp, I like to use my imagination. And she's a lot like Corduroy with thoughts and feelings. Would you like to try to make a stuffed friend of your own? I have a really simple sewing activity that we could do together. Get permission from an adult, and then gather some supplies like felt or cloth, some stuffing material or some cotton balls, a needle and thread if you can, otherwise glue will work too. You can follow along with me. Make sure you go ask an adult and gather up your materials, and then we'll go make a stuffed friend of our own together. Okay, you've got your materials ready. We're ready to make our very own felt bear. I have some things laid out in front of me, and I'm going to go over them as we're making the bear, but I'll just quickly mention them. And if you need to grab some materials, you have a minute to grab materials. The first thing I need, of course, is a pattern for my bear. You can draw your very own bear and work from that if you want. If you have a parent's permission, you can go online and find a free template. That's what I did. You can actually use the one I used if you want. I found it at All Mom Does, and it came with 2 different bears that you could choose from to make, or you can make them both if you want to. I'm going to work with this first template of the taller bear. And this bear includes a nose piece and a tummy piece, and both of those are optional. You don't have to put them on your bear if you don't want to, but we're going to use both. So to make my bear, I'm going to need a pattern, color for the pattern, which is this dark brown. That's going to be my bear body. And then I have this lighter brown for his tummy and his nose, just so you can tell he's got some different features. I am going to sew my bear, so I have used some embroidery floss. I have a tan color that's very close to the tan color that I'm using on the bear's belly and nose, so that they don't stand out too much and it kind of blends in. And I have this kind of rusty brown color embroidery floss. It does not match my dark brown, as you can see, but I'm okay with that. And then to make my bear a little bit different than the one you'll find on All Mom Does, and a little different from her pattern, is to add some overalls, just like Corduroy. The bear pattern did not come with a pants pattern or anything like that, so I had to create my own, and this is where I got to use my imagination a little bit. I used like a tracing paper. If you have tracing paper at home, you can do this too. If you have white paper and you hold this up to the light, you can trace. But what I did was I traced this bear body and drew pants to go over the body with my vellum paper. So you'll see if I put this on top of the bear, that's how I'm going to make his corduroy pants so they fit him. I went ahead and found this, green felt and this green floss. And again, they don't perfectly match, but that's okay. This is going to sew his pants and straps on, so it's okay if it looks a little different. And of course, what would corduroy be without 2 buttons? So I've got buttons for those overalls. So with that, we're going to go ahead and take our scissors and we're going to cut out our pattern first. You only need to cut one of these and use it again. If you have some double-sided tape or some tacky glue, you can just peel and stick it and use it again and again. If you don't and you want to cut 2 out, you can do that as well. Once you've cut out your template, you're going to either use double-sided tape, or like I said, you can use something like this, like tack it, glue over and over again. I use a little paintbrush, and you are going to stick it to your felt, and you're going to cut it out from your felt. Okay. So now I have a tummy piece cut out. Now I'm going to cut out my bear. Stick some of this tacky glue in here. Now you need 2 bears. So you can either use your template twice. You can cut 2 templates exactly the same, or if you've got a nice thin piece of felt and some nice sharp scissors, you can fold your felt in half like this and cut 2 at one time. That's what I'm gonna do. All right, so to start getting this bear put together, we're gonna start with his face. So I'm gonna make sure I've lined up his front and back, and I'm gonna work on the front of his body. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to attach his nose about where I'd like it on his head, and then I'm going to add in the eyes and the mouth detail. So this is when I'm going to need my needle and thread. If you don't have needle and thread or don't have an adult to help you with this, you can just glue eyes, you can glue a nose, you can glue a mouth. You don't have to sew. This is just if you like to sew or would like to try a simple sewing project, this is a good one to try. So I have that tan embroidery floss that kind of matches my nose color. I've cut off a piece and grabbed 2 threads. This comes thick. It's got 5, 7, 10 threads. I don't even know how many threads in one bundle. So I've just taken 2 pieces of the thread from it because that's as thick as I'm going to need. And I'm going to just thread my needle. After you've threaded your needle, you want to make sure you tie a knot at the end of the thread so that when you pull it through your felt bear, the whole thing doesn't come through. But you're going to go on the wrong side of the bear. So I'm not going to start in the front where his face is showing. I'm going to start behind. I'm going to poke through to the front. So I'm just going to stick my needle in there, and then I'm going to make sure it goes through his nose. And once I've pulled that through, I'm just going to do a simple stitch around the edges of the nose. Once you finish sewing his face in place, you're going to just knot it off and tie it up in the back here, and we're going to do eyes next. So I've threaded my needle with some black to make his eyes, and we're going to do what's called a French knot. I'm going to put it right on the outside of his face near the top. You're going to go from the inside of the bear, because you won't see that later, and you're going to pull it through to the knot, and then you're going to hold your needle facing away from his face, and you're going to wrap your thread around twice. 1, 2. We're going to hold that nice and tight to the side here. And we're going to go back in either right at or near where we came out from the back. And we're just going to pull through carefully. And that is what's called a French knot. It kind of looks like a little eyeball sticking out. We're going to do one more on the other side. Now I'm going to sew a nose and a mouth. So what I'm going to do is, using the same one, because I don't want to re-thread it and retie it, it's already here. I'm going to poke into his face towards the top. I'm going to pull it through. Just be slow when you're pulling since it's attached to these eyes. And then I'm going to go across and back behind. There, that's his nose. And now what I'm going to do is just do a line from his nose down to make a little bit of a curved mouth. Back through the front, right in the middle of his nose. You might have to wiggle around a little bit until you get it just right where you want it, or as close to. I'm going to go see right in the middle of his nose. I'm just going to pull gently through. Not too hard, just enough. And I'm going to go down. You can go down as far as you want. You should have something like this so far. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add my pants to my bear because I decided I wanted him to look a little more like corduroy. I'm not going to attach the belly piece, but you can if you'd like. I'm just going to glue the pants on. I'm going to glue his buttons on, and then we'll just sew around the whole thing and we'll see what we get for a finished product. Now if you decide to glue your pants or whatever else you come up with. Maybe you made a shirt or a tie for your bear. A tie would be really cute. You can use fabric glue, you can use super glue, you can use all kinds of Mod Podge probably would work. I think this tack it over and over is going to work just fine for this as well. Glued on my overalls, now I'm going to take my needle and thread, I'm going to sew these buttons into place. So I've got one sewn on, I'm going to do the other now. Now the part we've all been waiting for, the best part, if you ask me, is putting this bear together. I'm going to start right below one of the ears on the wrong side where I've been doing all of my sewing. I'm going to pull that through from the back. Make sure your knots doesn't tug all the way through. And you're going to line up your bear. I'm going to do just a very simple overcast stitch around the bear except for the top. I'm going to leave a little room so I can add stuffing into him. But what that is I'm just going to go over to the back of the bear, make sure I go through, back to the front, and I'm going to pull it all the way through. And I'm going to do that same technique all the way across. I'm going to go over, poke through the back, pokes through the back to the front, and then I'm just going to pull my thread through. Okay, when you've gotten around your bear and you've got just a little space left at the top, that's when you're going to stop sewing. Don't take your needle and thread off yet, just stop, and you're going to open up that bear and stuff some stuffing down in there. I've got this polyfill. This is great for stuffing. Like I said, if you don't have polyfill, you can also use like a cotton ball. So I'm just going to take off small pieces because this isn't a very big bear. And it's easier to work with small pieces, and I'm just going to use my finger and stuff him. I'm going to sew up a little bit more, and then I'm going to put just a little more fill into the top of his head after I get him sewed up. Once you've got mostly sewn, just a little bit left, you can finish stuffing, and then once I finish sewing him up, I can spread that stuffing around with my fingers a little bit. So we're going to finish him up. There's my little bear. I hope you enjoyed sewing a corduroy with me, or however your bear looks. I think I'm going to take mine back and see if Cosette might like it, because I think this is the perfect Cosette-sized stuffed bear. What do you think? Let's go find out. And we're back. Welcome back to my magic lamp. And you can see that I brought my sweet little hand-sewn corduroy bear back with me for our friend Cosette. Here you go, Cosette. We made you your very own corduroy bear. I hope you like it. I hope you like it. I hope you had a lot of fun crafting with me today after reading Corduroy. What a great story. I hope that you have an opportunity to read more stories like that and to use your imagination to make more things and to play and have fun. And I hope you'll come back and visit Cosette and myself in our lamp again soon. Until then, we'll see you later.